Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fire Takes Podcast, where we find the hottest stories on the internet and give our cool takes about that. I am joined today by my host in the podcast and in life, my husband, Tim. How is it going?
It's going well. I'll be honest, I kind of expected you to knock that out of the park and really show me up. I'm glad that we're we're working through it together, right? It makes me feel closer to you in some way.
We are equivalently mediocre.
Well, we appreciate all of you for dealing with our mediocrity, listening to our takes.
Well, my name is Gwen, and I am the primary hoster for this episode.
Are you? Oh, you're taking over. Huh?
I am. It's a hostile podcast takeover. Oh, that was really bad.
Bad.
Do we have any personal things to discuss before we get into our hot takes?
What's new? The most interesting personal money thing I'm doing is working on my Prosperity portfolio with the guidance of Frank Vasquez.
Love you, Frank.
Yeah, we are working that out for our savings beyond our emergency fund. Just savings goals beyond that. Just gonna go for the benefits of the tax sheltering that kind of comes along with doing a investment account instead of just piling more money into various savings vehicles.
I like how you said we are doing these things, because the we is pulling a lot of weight there.
Well, I mean, it's we's money.
It's true. It is we's money. But one of we's is doing a lot more observing than actively implementing, let's say.
Sure.
For which I'm very grateful.
Oh,
I have, I think, $100 in my taxable investment account, so this is a good way to get us into that stage of our finances.
Yes, we have more than that now.
Yes, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Awesome.
All right. Well, today's first story is from the Middle Class Finance subreddit. Title is Made It to Six Figures, but somehow feel broker than when I made $45,000? What is this psychological hell? All right. So buckle up, y'all, because I'm having an existential crisis about money and need some reality checks. I should also note that OP threw in a clown emoji. Just hit $105,000 salary, software dev, finally escaped retail hell, and thought I'd feel rich, or at least somewhat comfortable. Instead, I'm laying awake at 2 a.m. doing mental math about whether I can afford the $6 fancy coffee tomorrow. The math is breaking my brain. Old salary, $45,000, lived in a shitty studio, ate ramen, had $200 left over each month, but somehow felt fine. New salary, $105,000, upgraded to a decent one-bedroom, started shopping at Whole Foods, and now I'm stressed about every purchase over $50. I think I'm experiencing some twisted version of lifestyle inflation where I make more but somehow budget harder than when I was actually broke. When I made $45,000, I'd buy a $15 shirt without thinking. Now I make $105,000, and I spent 20 minutes last night researching if a $40 sweater was worth it, though I still built an NBA parlay here or there on stake of sums of $20 to $50. Skull emoji. Plot twist. My savings rate is actually higher now, putting away $1,500 a month versus $200 before, but I feel more anxious about money. It's the more I have, the more aware I am of losing it. Is this just what middle-class anxiety feels like? Did I accidentally upgrade from too broke to stressed to just rich enough to overthink everything? My therapist says it's normal, but not gonna lie, I kind of miss the blissful ignorance of actually being poor. How do you mentally adjust to having more money without turning into a neurotic budget monster?
First of all, I appreciate the dramatic reading of all of the emojis. The emojis were not a small portion of what really kind of drew me to this story. So I think he used them with great effect, and you read them well.
It just tells us that OP is a millennial.
Right. Yeah. It says so much with so few characters. I thought this story was super interesting because this doubling, it brings him from two very different lifestyle, socioeconomic positions, right? Like the difference between 45,000 and 105, yeah, it's double, but there's psychological about this whole six-figure thing. 45, I don't know. It's been a long time since I made anything like $45,000. But
flex over there.
But for just a single person, it let him live a life, right? He wasn't, I mean, he was eating ramen, which is not great. That's not going to sustain you forever.
Yeah, long term, that's probably going to cause you more expenses in health care.
But this also kind of speaks to, I think we've talked about this, the idea of whenever you don't have a lot of money, you'll spend it on things that are not great purchases, i.e., I'm making $20,000, but I go to McDonald's and eat out. It's almost a psychology of money can't make me happy or comfortable or anything like that, except for in just these little spurts, right? Like this is the only kind of joy by using my money is to blow it on something that is, from an outside observer, not a good purchase.
A temporary relief.
Right. So is it that he was maybe getting more joy per dollar at that 45K level than he is now? And he's not getting, even half as much joy per dollar. So even though he's making twice as much, he's getting less satisfaction out of the spending.
I mean, it could be that. But I also think that, like, maybe OP has something to lose now.
Yeah.
He is aware of the fact that he has upgraded and that there are a fair amount of stages in between his old life and his current life. And how he moved up fairly quickly, right?
Right.
But he could move back just as easily. I mean, especially in this environment, where you have a lot of tech jobs being decimated and a lot of companies laying people off. All the big tech companies are laying off thousands of workers left and right. And a lot of tech workers are having problems finding a job.
Yeah, this is from 13 days ago. So this guy is a junior developer in the age of AI, right? That is a scary place to be.
Yeah.
And you're right. It could be that comparison of, I don't want to go back to that. Even though he says he's happy, he was unstressed at that lower income level, there's still some fear of returning to it. And it's got to give him some satisfaction to be at this, in this new, nicer apartment, eating better food, right? So he probably doesn't want to get knocked back down.
There is security in being middle class, and there's also a lot of insecurity. Because when you're poor, everybody poor, right?
Right.
Like, you're all in the same boat, and you all help each other out, and y'all got nothing. But together, y'all have a little bit of some. When you're middle class, there's much more of an expectation that, okay, you're just paid to take care of whatever is going on. And there's a lot less community involvement and reliance, for better or for worse. I think probably for worse. But when you're middle class, you have a little bit of money to spend. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, actually, if I could spend money now, I can go up to this nice thing, and I'm not poor anymore. I'm interacting with people who have money, good jobs, and they have this thing that I want. And like, it kind of sets off this like keeping up with the Joneses attitude, right? Of like, well, that they're better at middle class than I am,
You're right. Whenever you're poor and surrounded by poor people. Yeah, I'd never thought about that keeping up with Joneses, how much of that is a middle class phenomenon, because you don't have options when you're poor, right? You can't always like splurge on things to keep up with the Joneses, if you will.
Yeah. It's a very different psychological way of life. And I think the comments go along with that Top comment says, welcome to middle class, where everyone else thinks you're loaded, including yourself, but you're one bad mistake from having nothing again.
And the next comment's kind of interesting, too. When I started to make more, I saw my potential to save much higher. So I wanted to save as much as I could to achieve financial independence and escape corporate.
Word.
Yeah. When I was making less, I mentally felt whatever, since the progress I was going to make on lower income was minimal and didn't see the point in caring. So that kind of goes along with what we were saying, right? When you're poor is just survive and look for little nuggets of joy. Whereas now in the middle class, it's like with great power comes great responsibility.
Somebody said at $50,000 spending $50,000 spending $100 on, I don't know, a fancy keyboard was a way to feel like I could spend money. At $110,000 spending $100 on a fancy keyboard I don't really need is just opportunity cost. That's a really insightful comment.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
Do I want that thing, or do I want to use this money?
Right. Do I want $100 more in my risk parity portfolio investment account?
Do I want $107 in 7 years?
Yeah. Right. Hey, in 7 years it's going to be $200.
Oh, it's true. Someone said you might be too poor to shop at Whole Foods still.
Yeah.
Which is called whole paycheck for a reason.
Maybe lay off the whole paycheck.
Yeah. Aldi and like the middle nice grocery store in your area are good. Maybe you can't do like Wegmans or like we have this local chain in St. Louis called Straub's. And I feel like I like go up a class status every time I step foot in that thing, which is once. Yeah.
Is Straub's really local?
I thought so. I don't know. We are fact-checking that in real time. Hold that thought.
Oh, yeah. No. Looks like you're right. It is Straub's Market. There are, just a handful.
There's a handful in St. Louis. And they have
schmancy places.
So schmancy. I mean, they got all the fancy cheese and the fancy, like, things that you would put out for hors d'oeuvres or, like, having people come over before the opera or whatever. I don't even know.
Didn't they still have, like, the accounts where you could just...
Oh, yeah. Put this on my account.
Yeah, right. Just bill
sell
you
up
for your
later.
Groceries. Yeah. That's fancy.
Yeah, so we are doing all right for ourselves, and we do not go there. We know our place. So,
right.
We're
not Straub's people.
Yeah, we're not Straub's people. I think OP has a lot of variation in between ramen and Whole Foods. He might have gone up a little bit too quick. Might have back it down a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that could also play into the keeping up with the Joneses thing.
True. There's a lot of ways to think about this one. And if you have thoughts on this, we'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the Facebook group or shoot us an email at firetakespod@gmail.com. Alrighty. The second post for today is from Am I the Asshole? Love this sub. Am I the asshole for refusing to sell my car and embarrassing my boyfriend in front of his dad? Am I the asshole? So before I was with my boyfriend, I was with my ex. He was very wealthy, and despite the relationship not working out, he did give me a lot of gifts throughout it, and he bought me a car for our 4th anniversary paid off in my name. We broke up right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I met my current boyfriend 10 months ago, and we've been official for 3 months now. I'm not one to speak about exes, and he never asked any questions, so I never told him how I got my car. He did compliment it, but that's about it. My boyfriend's father is a mechanic, and yesterday I was over at my boyfriend's apartment. His dad had to drop something off, and he commented about my car, saying it was the best in the parking lot, and he liked the color and rims, not knowing it's mine. We laughed about it, and his dad was asking me a ton of questions about it and how much I pay a month, and I told him it's paid off and a gift. My boyfriend was surprised and said he assumed I was paying it off and asked by who, and I said my ex. He got quiet, and it was really awkward for a bit where no one said anything. His dad broke the ice, saying it's a great gift since I don't have to worry about paying it off, and the conversation continued with him wanting to drive around the parking lot and see inside, which I let him. When he left, my boyfriend started going off on me, saying he can't believe I never said anything and that I just embarrassed him in front of my dad. I said, how? And he said he can't believe me and that I need to sell it since it doesn't fit my lifestyle anyway, and that he thought it was a dumb decision I made, not that it was a romantic gift. I said it's not romantic and that to my ex it meant nothing, and he got even more mad. His dad came back and gave me my keys and left, and then my boyfriend asked me to leave too, even though we had plans to go out. He's been distant since. Did I really embarrass him, and am I the asshole?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'd like to commend the father for breaking the ice and being like, hey, it's a great gift. You don't have to worry about paying for your car. That's awesome for you. And like trying to smooth things over. Like, I think he did the best he could in what was clearly an awkward situation.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to see if Opie ever said what kind of car it was.
Yeah, I didn't find that. But it's nice. I imagine it's a luxury car, right?
Yeah, it's probably like a, Jag or something.
So, okay. So, father did his best.
Mm-hmm.
She, not the asshole, but...
Definitely not the asshole.
Could have not said that, right? That maybe wasn't a 3-party conversation. Right.
And maybe, but like, if you have a car that is really, really nice and it's fully paid off, that's going to raise some questions.
Right.
Especially if, unfortunately, you are an attractive young woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we don't know how old these commenters are. So, that could potentially play into this as well.
Correct. Yeah.
But, that her boyfriend, jealous little man.
Yeah. So, for the third party, yikes.
His dad was probably like, aw,
yeah.
I did not do a good job on that guy.
Well, it sounds like the way she tells the story that he didn't blow up at her until he was out of earshot. Right?
Probably because he was out of earshot.
Right. Because, he realized he was about to be more embarrassing.
So, like, you have this super nice car from a guy who's very wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And she is probably correct that it was just like, yeah, you need a car? Here, here's a nice car.
Here's car. I have car.
Car. I have money for car. Here, car. Done.
Yep.
And to OP, like, this is like probably a dream car, right? His dad can't stop gushing about it.
Sure.
It's got good rims.
Nice.
It's got color. Like, wow, it's really nice. He wants to drive it.
Yeah, it's so nice that he calls it out in the parking lot as the nicest car in the parking lot when he didn't even know it was hers at the time.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's a super nice car.
It was just a practical way to get me a car. Mm-hmm. And that, I can see OP's boyfriend being like, that's my dream car. That's a super nice car. Mm-hmm. And he was so wealthy, it meant nothing. And I can't do anything anywhere near that.
Right. He's going to be a bit emasculated in the situation, right?
More than a bit.
Also, if I met you and you were driving a BMW, you make enough money that a BMW is not a great decision, but it's not putting you in the poorhouse, right?
No.
If you were driving a Bentley, I'd be like, what the heck, right? Yeah. If you were driving a car that was like 4 years salary, right? Like, because that's what that vibe I'm getting, right? Is that this is multiple years salary that this girl's driving around. And he didn't question it at all. Like, that is your car payment 90% of your paycheck? That's weird too, right? Like,
well, I also wonder if boyfriend was like, dang, she got a nice car. Maybe she can hook me up. Mm-hmm. And OP cannot hook him up.
No.
Not at all. And I wonder if he's probably a little bit of a gold digger.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. What if she caught his eye because of the car? Like, that was the first thing he was attracted to. Mm-hmm. And now his world is crashing down as he realizes that the thing that attracted to him to his girlfriend was something from some other guy.
Mm-hmm. Some do nothing, don't even care, right. It means nothing from some other guy.
Yeah.
But, like, if I had come in with, like, super nice jewelry, that wouldn't mean anything. If she had bags, he wouldn't care. It's the fact that it's a car that really bothers him.
You think so?
I think so. Because, like, how many guys out there really know how expensive bags are? Right.
If she was carrying around a Kelly bag and he didn't realize that it was a 5-figure handbag, and then, a year into the relationship, someone's like, oh my God, you're carrying a purse that is crazy expensive. And then the boyfriend gets curious and he finds out that it's a handbag. Do you think it's a different story? Like, do you think he doesn't get jealous of a lavish gift if it's not a car? You think there's something special about the car?
I mean, doesn't OP say that he gave a lot of gifts?
Right. So, yeah, she might have a bunch of stuff that OP just doesn't realize, that she has $100,000 in cash and prizes from her last relationship.
I don't know what a Kelly bag is or how much that is. So, way to flex over there, by the way. But
I'd almost forgot, but I heard it in a rap song the other day.
Oh yeah, there you go. $26,000. That handbag is worth more than my car.
Yeah.
By a factor of probably about 2.
Yeah. That's on the low end. Don't worry. They go to 40.
Yeah. I didn't even know how to pronounce Hermes for a long time until I was like, Hermes? And someone was like, oh, sweet honey child.
Hermes is a Greek god, right? Like that.
Yeah, but it's
that little tilde on the E, that adds $40,000.
Yeah, that accent agu. That accent agu is worth $40,000 right there. So OP responded to a couple of comments and said, he's saying I need to sell it because it's an embarrassing conversation to have if anyone asks me about it and how much I paid, and that he doesn't feel comfortable driving it anymore, so it would be an inconvenience when we move in together to only take his car or drive separately. I told him he's overreacting and he's saying I'm being the asshole, not him, and that if I sell it, I could downgrade to another paid off car that's cheaper and I could have money left over, and I'm dumb and irrational.
So, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
She shouldn't do it for him. Although, not a bad point. But cars are unfortunately not super resellable.
Yeah. The value of this is probably not MSRP anymore.
Right. But like I say, this doesn't sound like a money issue for him, right? If they were starving and she was driving around some ridiculous car, okay, maybe. But yeah, no, this is just all his insecurity. He can't drive it around, really? Like,
somebody said, your new boyfriend of 3 months is trying to dictate how you should live your life after you left what appeared to be a good 4-year relationship despite it not working out. The honeymoon period is officially over. Sorry, he just showed you exactly who he is. Keep your lovely car. If I had a nice car that had been given to me by an ex-boyfriend and I didn't have to pay for any of it, it's paid off, right? Yep. And you were like, oh, that's a nice car. And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, it was a gift. And he'd be like, sweet. Some other guy buy you an expensive car.
For real,
awesome.
For real.
That does not have to come out of my paycheck. This is great.
I may suggest why don't we sell it and put it in our investment account?
Yeah, I mean, with a nice car comes higher insurance.
Sure.
Higher expenses. You're probably going to spend more time in the shop because all of these cars are notorious for not actually being built. That
buying it is one thing, but cost of ownership is an ongoing problem.
My friend has a Jaguar SUV and sent us a picture today of his check engine light and was like, what's this? And we're like, bruh, you have a Jag. This isn't on a lot.
What is this? It's about $10,000.
Yeah. Whew, that's a lot of money. OP says he said I should sell it, buy a car, half the price, and invest the rest of the money. When I said no, he's saying I must have an emotional attachment to the car and it must be deeper. He's also embarrassed I told him in front of his dad, even though his dad was the one I was having the conversation with in the first place. He was the bystander. But he's saying I should have waited and not embarrassed him and I should apologize.
Yeah. That's the only thing. It's weird that it hasn't come up yet, right?
Yeah, but I mean, not everybody talks about money. Especially in a newer relationship.
Sure.
So, is it kind of strange? Yeah, but it's kind of strange that half of American households don't know their household income either. So
sure. Yeah,
that's
strange.
a true stat,
Strange to us. It's not strange to the world. Yeah,
dump him and go take a long drive in your sweet ass car.
Dude,
OP.
For real.
Maybe like go to a car show and like find guys who would be like, dang, that's awesome.
There you go.
And just be like, yeah, I got it as a gift. And then they can be like, sweet. Or they can be like, what? And then It's it's a really good litmus test, I gotta say.
Yeah, bring it up earlier in the next relationship.
Yeah.
But make it a next relationship.
Yeah, but make it the next relationship ASAP. Alrighty. Well, I'm glad we're done talking about crappy partners. Oh, wait. This last story comes to us from the Chubby FIRE subreddit. Wife refuses to let us retire. I, 58 male, wife is 56. We each have $1.5 million in our pre-tax investment retirement accounts. We have another $800,000 in a post-tax brokerage account. Mortgage of $300,000 on an $800,000 home with a low-interest mortgage that we are not eager to pay off. We have a $500,000 long-term care policy. Monthly living expenses right now work out to be $8,000 to $10,000 a month, including mortgage and vacations, etc. I've used Projection Lab to model our retirement for when I turn 60 in 2 years. Expenses plus $50,000 a year for travel, age 60 to 65, $50,000 times 2 for daughter's weddings, $30,000 for travel, age 65 to 70, 95% chance of success with Monte Carlo out to age 97, assuming 6% growth and a 60-40 portfolio. O-Care, age 60 to 65. What? O-Care? What is O-Care?
I have no idea what O-Care is.
If anybody knows what O-Care is, let us know. Anyway, taking Social Security at age 67 at 70% of today's rate. I've shown her the numbers and she thinks I am crazy for wanting to talk. She thinks I am crazy for wanting us to walk away from our secure income, $400,000 combined gross. We have had many, many arguments about this, and she always comes down on age 62 to 65 for what she'll accept. When she says this, I know she intends to go to 65. The thought of me retiring while she continues working is also a non-starter because she thinks that would mean that she was supporting me in a lavish retirement lifestyle. I'm incredibly frustrated, and I've resorted to thinking that a divorce might be the only solution. Of course, I've modeled it out, and I would be just fine with my half of assets, about $2.5 million. How do I get her to see that we have enough?
Wow. Yeah, this is barely FIRE at this point. He's asking to retire at 60, right?
Yeah, that's pretty low,
age.
But it's pretty standard retirement age, right?
Yeah.
It's between 55 and 65.
Especially when you got this kind of assets.
Yeah.
And I mean, for making $400 a year,
they actually don't have a lot of money.
Yeah, but I was going to say that their expenses were not unreasonable, like $120 a year, $10,000 a month, right? So
yeah.
I mean, it could be worse.
So right? I wonder how long they've been earning $400,000. Also, I wonder how that income breaks down. Is it $200,000 each, or is OP's wife at $350 and he's at $50, or Yeah.
Well, I mean, he does say that if he retired alone, he could get accused of her supporting him, right? So, like, my guess is it's relatively equal.
But I don't think that $170,000 is a lavish lifestyle in retirement. It is a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's Chubby FIRE.
It's Chubby FIRE, but
if you're 60, though.
If you're 60 and you have it all molded out and maybe you live in a higher cost of living area, that's pretty reasonable, right? That's stress-free.
Yeah.
And
and it's $10,000 a month, but they have a mortgage on an $800,000 house. So that mortgage is probably a pretty healthy chunk of that.
Yeah. But I mean, if you have a 2% mortgage on that,
yeah. I'm not advocating they pay it off, but yeah, it is something to consider. One thing that jumps to mind, retirement's not for everyone. What if she doesn't like the idea of retirement, right? Like she wants to work until 65 because she's afraid of what it's going to feel when you retire. And because I think a lot of people are like, okay, what now? Right? They're not retiring to something. Do you think just work is who she is?
I mean, a lot of people base their whole identity on work.
Sure.
And if they get fired or laid off,
Mm-hmm.
it gets ugly fast.
Yeah.
And I really think it's probably something deeper, psychological, with OP's wife. And I think they need to either go see a financial therapist, or she needs to see a therapist, or they need to go to marriage counseling or something.
Well, not to beat the old drum, but if this guy is on the Chubby FIRE subreddit and running projection lab models, he's been thinking about retirement for a while.
Yeah.
And maybe he should have talked to his partner before now.
I got the impression that he has, and she shot him down every time.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested that they hire a fiduciary financial advisor and have her attend the meeting. And he said, we talked to 2. She still doesn't believe it. So if you're not even going to believe a qualified third party about your situation, it's not anything about the actual situation that's going on.
People are saying, hey, why don't you just retire and let her do her own thing? And OP says, she says, there is no way she will quote unquote support me, and she'd be impossible to live with under those conditions. And then someone responds, she sounds impossible to live with regardless. Ouch.
OP said, you're not wrong. I suggested marriage counseling, actually. She so far has not acknowledged that I even mention it. But somebody said it's probably more of an emotional barrier, not a financial one.
Yeah.
And but OP is approaching it like a math problem.
Right.
And he says, yes, she grew up very poor, so there's a lot of emotional baggage that I'm not able to overcome with maths. I am appreciative of the thoughtful advice post, but can't ignore the gloop.
Yep. No, that is a good point. There is a lot of numbers in this post, and it has nothing to do with numbers. The numbers work out really well. The only thing the numbers do is whip up the comment section with people who are like, oh my God, that's plenty of money to retire from in this FIRE subreddit.
Yeah, somebody suggested that they go on Ramit Sadie's podcast, Money for Couples. I think this would be a really great one because he would be really good at unpacking the emotional trauma that OP's wife is carrying is coming out in this way.
Yep.
Somebody also suggested that they just separate their finances and be like, fine, you don't want to support me? Keep all your money and I've got my money.
That would be an interesting mess of him living off of half of their retirement funds, doing just fine as she lives off of her income. This is not going to end well unless they figure out the emotional part
Somebody
of it.
said, this is an incredibly complex situation, but it needs to be a discussion, not something where you are either granted or denied permission to do something so fundamental within your remaining limited and unknown lifespan. In short, she cannot dictate what you are allowed to do, but on the other hand, your choice may result in the end of your partnership, and that would change everything, including the fundamental calculus of retiring. If you want to avoid that, and if she refuses to succumb to mathematical arguments, there's probably a deep-seated and fundamental reason why she's so adamant about her stance. Therapy is probably the only way to explore this in a safe and objective way. I retired 4 years ago, and while I didn't have such a traumatic experience, my wife was not necessarily on the same page. She lacked an understanding of the financial aspects and viewed the change in our daily logistics as a disruption of the life that she had led for the past 20 years. We are talking about some deep-rooted stuff here. Don't expect that you'll be able to navigate it alone as much as that sucks. Somebody said, you don't need her permission to retire. If she wants a divorce, let her file. And somebody said, then sue her for alimony.
Oh my God. Wow. That's awful.
That's so funny. Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope you were entertained and maybe even potentially learned something. Let us know if you have learned something or if you have thoughts on the episode. But until then, we will catch you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Fire Takes podcast. Wanted to remind you that this is an entertainment podcast. Gwen and I, not financial planners, just opinionated. There are many ways to reach us if you just go to firetakespod.com, including email, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube. You can hear more from Gwen at firymillennials.com. Thanks for joining us. Bye.